Hello, everyone. This is the second episode of the Blue Moon Podcast. We haven't done one in a long time, and today I'm with Noah. He's one of he's one of our head members at Blue Moon Productions. And we're gonna talk here, as you can see, about some future projects and things that are in the works. The channel's been kind of quiet, and I think there's a lot of things that you guys could use some filling in on, as well as maybe some hints as to things that are going to go on in the future, because we kind of, there's been a lack of content, so we're going to give you some good stuff here. So, do you want to jump right in, or do you have anything to say prior?
No. We can just get into it.
All right. First thing, Spider-Man Fallen Worlds. This has been something that a lot of people have been waiting to hear about. Part 1 came out, 2 years ago? Roughly. Here, let me check. I think it came out December of 2021, so it's coming on 2 years here. And there has been no talk, at least public talk, since. But I have done a lot of thinking. I've talked with Noah, I've talked with Omen Productions about some things, and I have decided that I wasn't really pleased with how I started the final chapter, I guess, of this story I was trying to tell in this trilogy. And so I'm going to leave it up. I'm going to leave part 1 up, but I am redoing Spider-Man Fallen Worlds, the whole thing. The first part is not canon. There might be things that I pull from it that also happen in this one, but that Spider-Man Fallen Worlds part 1 is not the Spider-Man Fallen Worlds. It's more of like a concept, I guess. Anything you want to say, Noah?
Yeah, I think it's to have a kind of restart because, Cam has just grown as a filmmaker and as a storyteller a lot from that time. And I think to get the best representation of what he visualized of that story, I think it's good now that he's doing it again so he can truly see out that vision he saw and really bring it to its full potential.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot more creative input on this one as well from our other members, such as Noah and Omen. But this is more of a film that I kind of need to focus on, so I can't really give a date. I mean, I think you could expect it here in the next 2 years. It's definitely not soon. I mean, I think filming could possibly start next summer. Not this upcoming summer, but the summer after that. So, because this summer, we have what our next topic is about.
Yeah.
Amazing Fantasy. This is a Spider-Man television series starring Peter Parker and some people from, those comics, and so far there are 3 seasons that we have confirmed that are going to happen. I'm going to let Noah do the majority of the talking on this one, considering that he will be writing this story, and as he wanted me to focus on directing and cinematography and acting and things like that. So yeah, Noah, here, take the floor.
Yeah, so Amazing Fantasy is, it's been an idea I've been thinking about a lot of, having a television series of Spider-Man. I think something all fans will want to see, a good one written. This first season is mainly going to be focusing on the Chameleon. I can give too much on what is happening. I also can't give too much because, it's a work in progress. Still figuring out the story.
All right.
But season 1 will be focused on the Chameleon, and I will say that this Spider-Man, this is not going to be an origin story. Be assured of that. It's not going to be back to basics Spider-Man. But it's not going to be a hardcore Spider-Man. He's still getting his foot in the water. He's getting in there, kind of trying to figure things out. And what I wanted to do with these characters is I really want you to feel the characters. My main thing I want is for this to, as close as possible, take the points of the comics, but also take aspects of great television and blend the two together. Season 2 is, I can say, it's going to be focused on the symbiote. I can say that. Season 3, we're still thinking about that. But you can expect the obvious characters, Mary Jane, Osborn, let's people like that. But there will be some new faces you haven't seen or haven't seen that much of. Betty Brant, she'll be in the first season. I can say that. Other people, some mob bosses. I can't really say who. We might give it too much of the story, but I will also say for the first season that it is definitely going to be a story of a lot of twists and turns, a lot of mystery involved in it, a lot of misdirections, a lot of steps in the right directions, a lot of one step forward, two steps back. The main thing about it is, and the main thing I want to do is, I just want to write a great series. First of all, of course, I want to do a great adaptation of Spider-Man, but the main thing about it is the writing. I want to come first for anything to me. And also, like I said, I really do want this to be a moment where Cam can kind of just shine with his directing and, visual and individuals. Because me as a, and I think it's very easy with me as a writer. I'm very focused on visuals. I'm a real visual person. So it's great to have that.
Yeah, and you're really taking your time with the writing process on this one, right? You said something like each episode's gonna take roughly like 2 weeks to write, which really shows the time that you're putting into this writing process.
Yeah, it was an idea. I don't want to sound like, but it was a deal I had kind of snatched, I guess, from the Breaking Bad writing team, and I was like, well, look at Breaking Bad. That's that's deemed one of the greatest pieces of television. So I think spending that much time to focus on each individual each individual episode is good because can figure out what these characters are about, what the story is, and give good things. Not have plot holes, not have contradictory things, not have
Right.
certain things that just make story not really that hit. And also, I know the expectation is of fan projects, so I want to go beyond those expectations. That
Yeah.
one might be expecting something like this because you can do better than what is expected of you. Anyone can, no matter what it is. And
Right.
for the episode, I will say, I just want to say this before getting into it. It will be a little bit more of a methodical show. And I'm not saying it's gonna be fucking gotta sit down on the couch and be looking down every minute. But it is a show that is more to me, just as I am a writer, I'm very character based. So it is gonna really be kind of a very character-driven drama. So it might feel slower. It might feel a little slow, but not gonna be. It's not. I'm not gonna bore you to fucking death. You know.
Yeah, how much action would you like expect to be in, like, just for example, the first season, and maybe elaborate like on the second season, how these scales kind of change.
So on the first season, I say an action ride. Wait, there's gonna be there, you're gonna have action. You're gonna have those normal Spider-Man stuff. You know, the swinging and stopping the bad guys. That's all gonna be there. Plus, also with another certain subplot that's going under, there will be a lot of action in there. A lot of crime action. But again, with this story, especially with Chameleon at the heart, which I think is that's something I really want to talk about. It's something like I feel like Chameleon, very not much used. I think people downscale their play, what they can do with them. But the character is so there's so much you can do with the character that I think people really realize.
Yeah.
So it's another thing with the character like Chameleon. I feel like a very action-packed story. It can work, but just with who he is and how he is, a more methodical kind of mystery, kind of. I would say this is kind of like a thrillerish kind of story. That's kind of what you can get a feel of. You can get a kind of thriller. Maybe there might feel some aspects of a David Fincher. There might feel some aspects of a Breaking Bad. There will feel some aspects of because I brought it up again. I was like, I I think the pitch. I think it was one of the ways I pitched it. I was like, imagine Steven Spielberg making a Spider-Man project.
Yeah, and I remember really liking whenever you said that, whenever you brought this series up to me, and you said that kind of really made me like, yeah, we got to do this. We got to do this for sure.
And you can Peter. I know how people are gonna say Peter is gonna. I'm gonna want to be as true as I can to the character of Peter. I'm gonna want to make him as true as I can. I don't want to, I want to try and want to make this be a different take on the character, but I'm not gonna
Depart
drive.
too far from the comics.
Yeah, I don't want to drive away from too much from the point of why Stan Lee made him as a character, but I do want him to stand on his own, and be able to be his own kind of Peter.
Right.
Also, I would say this: there will be some inspiration taken from Ultimate Spider-Man. You can might be expect like an Ultimate Spider-Man vibe.
Mm.
Probably I'd say if I'm talking about like a certain part of Ultimate Spider-Man, I'd probably say like the first half of it. The first half of it, I'd say the first half of it, and also you can kind of, I say probably too, maybe a bit of a bit of a old kind of like in the '70s Spider-Man, because Peter will be in college in this series. He's 19 in this series. He's been Spider-Man for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I think you said 2 years maybe, I think.
Yeah, 2 to 3 years, two in that range.
When does
So
this series take place, like in time?
in time, it will be in the modern day. It'll be in the
Okay.
modern day,
All right.
modern aspect. Of course, it could be. It would been interesting to do it. Uh, in the past or in some certain time era. But I was like, what's the way people are going to connect to this? And it's like putting in the modern aspect.
Yeah.
No, not what I was saying. This isn't going to be. I'm not going to like make it too modern, but it will be set in the present day, just because just to make it. Like I said, I want to make this feel like a real lived-in place.
Yeah, and is this Peter gonna be more of like a MCU Peter where he kind of has that technology and he creates all that stuff, or is this gonna be more of like a um how do I say this? More of like a original comic accurate Peter where he has his web shooters, he has his handful of occasional gadgets, but
The web card is the web card. Yeah, the web card. Just the normal. I'd say probably like taking into account the MCU, because right, we got people like Tony Stark and super geniuses. Just to me, I think to make the story more interesting, I'm not gonna do all that complicated techie stuff.
Yeah.
Just I want to give the idea of a realistic Spider-Man. So I want him to have his web cartridges, which can make just these scenarios that could happen with the idea that, oh shit, what if he runs out of web cartridges?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
those kind of things, or like his suit gets like really fucking messed up or
Will
something
we
like that.
see any like will we see any scenes like that where like Peter is put in a position where he kind of has to work around these things, like because he's not so technical and he doesn't have all these safety precautions and backup plans. Are we gonna see Peter have to work with, say he, for example, he does run out of webs and he's still like 20 minutes away from this crime? Like, is Spider-Man gonna have to take the subway? Like, you know what I mean?
um, yeah, you can expect those kind of things. Also, just not like even and not those kind of scenes. Also, just with the duality of Peter and Spider-Man. This, as a writer, it's the kind of things is it's good to it seems bad to put your character in corners, like you put yourself in a box in a corner, but it's about doing it correctly and masterfully,
Yeah.
and it's putting the characters into those corners where there's the you have to come there has to be a result, a solution that is makes sense, sticks in line with the character, and it's a smart and reasonable one, and the end of the day, when you think about it, is the only way they can get out of that situation. And another thing, 'cause I know people are gonna be like, when it comes to Spider-Man movies, it's not really a problem or so of Spider-Man movies. It's kind of just superhero movies in general. The aspect of that is, the whole thing of the the bad guy kind of becoming a dumbass at the end of the story.
Right.
Um, I don't. You can be rest assured, there's not gonna be any of that.
Oh, that's
These
that's good.
these characters will have to come up with problems and solutions like like normal people, and you can expect there to be some tricky situations where it might seem like Peter might not get out of this, and you know what, he might not get out of this, and then he might have to come up with something else. So, and also you can expect there to be, because I know another critique of the MCU was the kind of the idea of there not much being focused on like Peter's financial problems. Um,
Yeah.
you can expect those in this series. You can very much expect those.
So you're really delving into Peter Parker as a character and as well as Spider-Man, but the how his life as Spider-Man also affects his life as Peter Parker, right? And was something that a lot of um, a lot of stories kind of touch upon, but they never really actually do anything with it, right?
Yeah, and not only just Peter, but also mainly, really, I want to dive into all the characters because these people, they're even though they are characters created, they're I want to see them as people. I see them as people, and people have all their own little idiosyncrasies, their own trauma, their own philosophies, and obviously, I'm not gonna dive into every. You're not gonna get a whole breakdown of every character, but I want you to get an understanding of who these people are, and more than just the surface level,
Yeah, well,
and
it really
I like
sounds
characters.
like you're putting a lot of thought into this, which is nice to hear for sure.
Yeah. Um, I will say it's about season two. There, it's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get crazy.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
our
Can you
like our
tell us a little bit, like, without exposing too much? Can you tell us a bit about season two? What to kind of expect for the future of this series?
so season two, you can expect, like I already said, there will be the symbiote, and you, I mean, what comes with the symbiote comes with something else. I won't say what. I won't say who. You might see him in this first season. You might not. But Also, knowing that there may be a feline friend you may see, you may not thing. But also with season two, just besides that, I really want season two kind of to be kind of like a deconstruction of Peter. I mean, from what we see Peter become at the end of season one, and kind of just season two destroying all that, and Peter having to fight for that. Obviously the battle between Peter Parker and Spider-Man is hard enough, but then it becomes even worse when it's a battle between Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and the symbiote.
Right.
And you will, like I said before, this is an origin story, but you will see in season two some there will be some backstory kind of. You will get to know some stuff on Peter's past. But really, season two is really, I could say, kind of just what I'm thinking of at the moment. It really probably is gonna feel kind of like a psychological drama, honestly. Very, very, very in the head. You're gonna get very, very already much more than you are gonna be in this season into the head of Peter Parker.
Yeah, so speaking of the symbiote and stuff like that, what kind of approach do you say that you're kind of taking to the symbiote? Because a lot of ways that the symbiote is introduced into the stories of um um at least current stories that are told about Peter Parker and the symbiote. Sometimes they're not, told in the best way. They can be told better. How do you plan on introducing the symbiote and kind of incorporating this into Peter's life, which, and how does it turn into future things, and how do you kind of plan on making this whole thing fall into place in a solid way that ties the whole story together?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think when it comes down to it, the symbiote itself is kind of like the answer to all of Peter's problems. It poses itself as that. When he's first introduced to it, it seems it's the answer to all his problems. So I I'm not gonna I won't say that first hour out of the bat you're gonna be kicked into Black Suit Spider-Man. I don't want to say that, but I will say that you will kind of maybe see Peter hit a little bit of rock bottom. Um, and then
Mm.
that's where the video will come in, looking to be itself as an answer to that, and
Oh,
kind of
yeah. Yeah, that's smart.
not only that, because another aspect of it I didn't touch on before, but the world building in this series, there will be a lot of world building in this series. You'll see you'll get mentioned to certain people, certain characters, you know, things that happen in this universe, certain stuff is, just goes on. It just all adds to the world. So you may or not get a mention in the first season about a symbiote, you, you know.
Right.
But not only that, uh, the symbiote, because not only does it kind of corrupt Peter just in terms of Spider-Man and that kind of thing, but also his relationships with the people around him. And I do want to really get into that too, of how that affects him and what that does to him. And
Yeah.
I don't want, you know,
Go.
I think a lot of times in some aspects, some stories with the Black Suit Spider-Man, the consequences aren't really felt. I think it was done correctly and masterfully in Spectacular Spider-Man, and
Right.
of course in the comics. But I think sometimes like the real effect of Black Suit Spider-Man is not really felt.
Yeah, I agree.
But the people he does it to, the people who get involved with it, and he puts it on,
Right. It's sort of
it
just forgiven after he takes it off. Right.
kind of just forgiven. And also another thing, I'll be honest. I'm not surely likely. I won't say 100% likely. I'll touch on it, or it'll be a thing. But it's just something that interested me because I brought it up to Cam before. I brought it up to was the idea of exploring Peter's, religion, mainly just because of the morality, and I think that comes in also when playing Spider-Man, the morality of Peter,
Right.
who he is. Um, honestly, it's such a parallel between religion, fighting, I guess, the temptation. It's kind of like the temptation of the symbiote, and it was in my head. I was like, it could be interesting seeing those both flipped onto each other and kind of what it does.
Right. And this project here. You've done a lot of writing in your past, right? You've done a lot of script writing. You've done a lot of story writing, but this is your first real project that's really gonna like be seen like that's done with professionally with cameras and live action and stuff, and you're really gonna be able to see your story come to life in the way that you envisioned it, hopefully. So how does that kind of make you feel, and what do you plan to kind of do with that, like for yourself, or everything?
I think it's great. It feels great, when you 'cause obviously you have it in your head. You see it in your head when you're writing, and you're like, "Well, that would be great." And you have the film in your head, and when you read it back to yourself, it's like, okay, I see the film. Not like it's gonna get fucking made, but I see the film I made, and knowing now that it will get made, and I'll see the things I write down. It gives me, I guess, a bit more of, I guess, a kind of more confidence when my writing. Knowing that this won't just be something that is in the likely boat. It is you know, a determined thing to happen. It kind of, like I said, it adds some determination and some drive to me to really put some work onto this thing. And just Cam knows this. I am subtly a perfectionist. I'm like, I try not to be, but like I can't help it to try and be a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to me. So I mean, that's another thing with this. I'm just kind of so obsessed with getting it right and making sure everything is how it's
Right.
supposed to be, how it should be.
Yeah, filming for this will begin in this summer of 2024. So you can expect the first season to come out. What would you say, Noah?
Mm, I'd say maybe it's gonna be we're the episode count for season one is going to be 9 episodes. So I say maybe you might see it around fall time. You might see it probably around fall time. I say most likely in that fall time.
Yeah. So yeah. That was good. Thanks, Noah. So yeah, that's Amazing Fantasy, and with that, I mean, obviously we have a bit of time here to before we begin filming that, but part of that has to do with the next project, because this project that we are um about to begin filming now will come out probably around the time where Amazing Fantasy begins production. So, yeah, let's get into that. This is The Night Crow, which is the sequel to the Christian Todd film, the first one. This is definitely something I'm very passionate and excited about. I've created the character of Christian Todd back in 2019. I think I made him.
It's
Um,
4 years.
yeah, yeah, and it was it was truly something to be able to adapt him into film. Although I know that there was so much more I could do. However, I know that he was an unknown character practically. He no one really knew much about him. No one really knew, what purpose he really served in the story of like the Bat family and everything. So a lot of the first film was a lot of exposition, a lot of character building, and kind of just putting you into this world where you can kind of get a grasp as to who this character is, what to expect of him. We see his initial arc of, kind of ruthless and very, very damaged internally. And we see him kind of come to terms with that at the end of this film, at the end of the first film. And we see him through the character of, what was his name? Shit. Do you remember what his name was?
The main
The villain.
antagonist.
Yeah.
What you asked me before, because no, I don't.
Dude, what was his name?
The bad guy.
Oh. It was Thomas Bart. Through this major conflict, and his first real like villain that he has to fight on his own. He's taken down his occasional thugs. Gotham City will never be rid of crime, but this character Thomas. He is really, really something that comes into Christian's life and absolutely flips it upside down, where he enters immediately with, he enters with a bang for sure. I mean, no pun intended. He kills his Christian Todd's insurance manager, which gives him $7 billion, I think it might be $7 billion.
That was such. I'm sorry. Since you said with a bang, that was such a dark joke.
Yeah, because he literally enters Christian's charity party and shoots him twice, and so clearly,
Way to be the life of the party.
Right? Yeah, really. So he comes in. He immediately steals a lot of Christian Todd's his family assets, right? And this guy Thomas Bart, he is a scientist, and he's trying to figure out how to he is kind of against the whole idea of heroes and vigilantes and things like that, because he kind of entrusted them with his family, and he assumed that they were always safe because they have these people. Once his family is not in fact saved, and he kind of blames that on Robin, which was Christian Todd at the time before he became what he doesn't really have a name. I mean, people kind of just call him the Walmart Batman, the rip-off bat freak, right? He doesn't really get a name for himself until the end of this film. But there's no correlation between Christian and this villain at the beginning. He doesn't know that Robin was Christian Todd. That's not why he targeted him. He targets Christian Todd specifically and steals money from him because he feels as though these people with all this money, they have all this money and they don't really do much with it. They just let it sit around. They don't do anything with it. So what's the big deal, right? So he steals all this money, and then, he puts it all into this formula, which he believes can cure disease, cure illness, make the best version of human as possible, right? So he experiments it on his family, not necessarily family, but, his close friends who he considers family. He builds himself a bit of a gang. You see Christian kind of take down these people throughout the movie. And eventually Christian gets kidnapped, and kind of, not necessarily kidnapped, but, he's tortured for, I think the runtime for the torture scene was actually, I think, around 25 minutes of straight torment, which I really wanted to.
John Carpenter movie, I'm gonna lie.
Yeah, I really wanted to focus on how I don't know how tormented Christian is in the scene, because Christian never really had that moment where he I don't know, he had his moment where, which we see through flashbacks of Bruce Wayne dying, right? We see that he's had his fair share of trauma, but he's never really had a moment that, at least that we have seen, hint hint, that has really impacted him as a character, other than the death of Bruce Wayne. He kind of had it easy as a kid, he was thrown into Robin, but he was one of the Robins, other than Tim Drake, who really wanted to be Robin. Like, he kind of asked to be Robin, whereas Dick Grayson didn't really, neither did Jason Todd. And obviously it goes south pretty quickly, because in a way he kind of rushes this. Obviously Thomas Bart's family is killed by Two-Face, which eventually bites him in the ass later whenever Bruce Wayne quits being Batman, which you wouldn't expect, but he does Nightfall Protocol because he let these people die. And, it's kind of left ambiguous where Bruce Wayne went, what happened, if he really did quit or if he just took Batman to another place. But eventually he comes back, which ends up, making him die. Anyway, we see towards the end of this film, the end of his arc, he really sees it through Thomas Bart, as Thomas kind of explains the reason why he's doing all of this. And it kind of causes Christian to come to terms, like, he's really, like, killed all of these people who, in his eyes, are villains. And me and Noah actually were talking about this earlier. But that vengeance, that he had a vendetta, essentially, because, Batman was killed in front of him, right? So he feels as though he's never going to let this happen again. And so he's going to basically kill the criminals that he comes across, because if he lets them live, it gives them a chance to inflict harm onto other people. But there was a method to Batman's madness, right? People could be changed. So we kind of see Christian go through that, and him kind of swears not to kill anymore. Which, right, he gets rid of the bat suit, he throws it into a river, essentially. And the film ends with him saying that he is the Night Crow, which is his first official name that he actually has for himself, other than Robin, which, wasn't obviously an original name, but yeah. And so through this film, the script is finished, completely finished. There
was mixes of collaboration, mainly, Kim and Almond, and some. But yeah, it was good though. It was good to have collaboration.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely also had your impact on the writing process, especially with kind of creating visions and the ways that we can show off really what is happening in the scene through pure camera work, right? Which I really appreciate whenever it comes to you and the writing process. if you want to touch on a bit the script without giving too much away, you can go ahead and
You can go.
take the floor.
I say on the script, it's because we have in the first movie a very methodical, like he said himself, very slow movie, but we were getting to know getting to know this man, who he was, who he is about. We were getting to know him, um, and of course, it could feel at moments to some people. Of course, we could feel like, well, it's a bit of a drag, which I wouldn't say. But when you have powers, people are like, yeah. But I would say with this is because we know who he is now. You get an even deeper look at him, just off of the first movie. Um, you're gonna this movie moves at a pace. I say this movie starts and it didn't slow down. You kind of just it gives you the ball and you just kind of start running with it. So yeah, and also not only that, I think, like I said before, speaking about Spider-Man Fallen Words, even in the short time between writing the first movie, Cam has just improved him. It's just gotten improved so much, as a filmmaker, a writer, a storyteller, and the idea and the way he wants to tell stories, the way he wants to, do a scene. It's just all kind of different. So I think with this movie, just based off the script alone, it's going to be a very different film. You still, get that kind of feeling you have from the first movie with that kind of down gritty, but this movie, I feel like it kind of, I don't want to speak prematurely, but and the pacing of the script reads, it kind of gives you an almost. I'm looking for a film comparison. I say probably like a kind of like an old Al Pacino movie. I probably like a. I know Cam probably hasn't seen it, but a movie called Dog Day Afternoon. It kind of moves at a pace like that, or I'm using this man's name again, like a David Fincher thriller. Like probably say like a like a like a girl with a dragon tattoo type of pace, or Gone Girl pace. It has its moment of brevity, but it still is moving along the way. And like I said before with the collaboration, that was another key aspect about that was getting opinions, getting
Right.
but because I think anybody, no matter what it is, even if you're writing by yourself, you still need input because it can get sometimes you get so lost in your own head you don't even really see the full aspect of what you're writing. And because you get so lost in your head, and we as people, we don't really see our own flaws. We can really see our own flaws. Yeah, we can pick up on them, but we don't really see the full aspect of them. When you don't have someone around you to kind of like
Fact check you,
inform you on, okay, maybe this could be a little different. Maybe you could do something different here. Maybe this could, change around. Maybe this could be different. That's good, but maybe you can go farther on it. When you don't have that kind of thing, it can lead to, problems. So it was good to have that collaboration here because, with us, there's really, we really aren't scared. We don't feel bad about speaking the truth.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
like, if like we're so really honest with each other, if something is ass, we're gonna tell you.
Yeah.
If it's not hitting, if it's boring to me, I'm gonna tell you it's boring. But I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be a little about it and tell you, oh, it's boring. I'm gonna, it's. I'll help. I'll kind of be like, this bored me a little bit, but I think maybe if you change that around, or if you shorten that up, or if you did something there differently, then that might make it a little bit,
Yeah.
might, so yeah, it was great to have, and I wish that Omen was here, then you could talk about it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, me too. Um yeah. But the film consists of our kind of our lead characters, I guess you could say, consist in this film starring obviously Christian Todd as the Night Crow, which it's very nice to see this different. It's not. You can tell it's the same character, but you can tell that he's had character building. Like, it's very nice to be able to see him more as like a hero, you know? So we definitely, it's very nice to be able to delve a lot deeper into his character with an hour less of time. The runtime for this film is roughly 2 hours. So the pacing definitely improved. It's a lot, less exposition. There's, like Noah said, you're kind of just given the ball and you run with it, So we get a lot of flashbacks are kind of a key in this trilogy. But it's not like in a way that is boring. It's not like, oh, another flashback. It's like these are things that we've never seen before. These aren't like just like I would say in the first film, the flashbacks kind of got a little boring because they were a bit slow. But in this film, it's not like that at all. And the flashbacks aren't very long each. Like each flashback I'd say is like at most 3 minutes. So yeah, our lead antagonist in this film is, the Clock King, which I've never seen done, in a Batman film. Go ahead.
Yeah, I haven't. I say this about his. I think it was very interesting. I don't know who. I feel because I think there was another villain you were planning on doing instead of Clock King, but I don't know what led to Clock King being the one chosen.
What was the other one?
You know what? I really don't remember. I do, but I know you were going to. There was another character you were going to choose. Be here. But yeah, Clock King is just. Obviously he's not touched on too much, and there is the debate between because he flips pops between being with the Green Arrow and then also being with Batman. So it kind of is like it's hard to tell if he's a Batman villain or if he's a Green Arrow villain.
Right.
But he's a Batman villain. And the way Cam does him in this movie, you kind of. I'm not gonna say he's a fucking. You know what? No, I'll say it. He's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, he's definitely off his rocker a bit.
Like you can tell. Like I don't. We're gonna say just for sensitivity's sake, he's a bit acoustic. Do that, but still though. Besides that, he is still a good. He's still a good character. He has his own interesting idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, you kind of feel your sympathy for this character in a way, and it was nice to be able to balance that, his little psychopathic nature. I mean, the movie kind of begins whenever we're introduced to the character. It kind of begins with him being let out of Arkham Asylum after he's let out on good behavior, right? He's never really done anything too crazy yet. It's a little bit. I mean, we've taken inspiration from the comics on this one, but also there's a bit of a departure where I kind of made him his own character in this as well, whereas he also retains his comic book features as well. He's his if you don't know much about the Clock King as a character, he has a sister, and his sister is terminally ill, and he's kind of forced to take care of her in this, where, eventually he's locked up and put in Arkham Asylum. While he's in Arkham Asylum, his sister eventually dies. He kind of blames this on the people who apprehended him because, he was the only person in his eyes who could take care of his ill sister. And they kind of, they obviously took him from her, which in his eyes, they practically killed her. So we see him kind of, this guy's a scientist in this film, and he's a very different, I really like that we see a very different villain than in the last film. He is very, like, and Noah, you can add on to this if you'd like, but he's a very different villain, like, very.
Yeah, besides the acoustic, he, he is he kind of gives you I'd say, I'm just thinking about it. I say if you wanted to imagine kind of a representation for a character like him, I'd probably say something like a kind of gives you Norman Bates vibes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes him so much what is differentiates with him, because like obviously in the Fast movie, the last movie, we had someone of course who I think was more kind of honestly more kind of LeBron's kind of more action based, but still even with the film it's more psychological with him. But see with this, with Clock King, kind of you get almost a horror aspect with him. You get almost like I don't want to say slasher, but I do want to say slasher.
Yeah.
That you kind of get, you know, this kind of old era horror kind of vibe off of him. It just gives you this sense of uncomfortability, and I think that's interesting with a character like someone like Michael's character, whose whole aspect is working on fear. And he
Right.
brings to this kind of real horror kind of character. It's interesting to see how it kind of bounces off. And another thing is, other characters, because like I said before, the first one kind of was really just mainly about, it was really just on Cam. It was really nonsense. It was
Yeah.
on Michael. Come on, Michael. But
Christian.
oh my gosh, bro, my head. I'm sorry, my
No,
head.
you're good. You're good.
Christian. Um, this one though, you get into other characters, like Gordon. You get into Gordon's character, and I think that's really great because you get to indulge yourself in other characters and really see how they are too. And just out of the and plus with Gordon and Christian having such deflecting ideologies and beliefs, it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely brought to the forefront in this film, where Gordon stands and where Christian stands, and it's like, they have their little, they're like a married couple, like they are around each other because they have to be, in a way, because Gordon knows that he kind of needs to work sometimes outside of the law with this vigilante. And even though he kind of, he doesn't agree with where he stands, he trusts the Night Crow to kind of, he's made this change where he's not going to kill anymore, and Gordon's happy to see that, and it's caused him to be able to work with him more. But how can he completely trust a character who's spent an entire movie killing criminals, right? So yeah, I mean, you see their little bickering back and forth sometimes. Um, you know, yeah. There's a lot of fun camera work in this. I actually purchased a DSLR camera for this film and for Amazing Fantasy. There's a lot of fun camera work. A lot of fun camera work, especially with the Clock King and the things that he, just the idea of time, and there's no time travel. I'd like to, I'd like to, push that out of the
This is
way.
gonna, this is gonna be Back to the Future with Batman in it.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of mental, like, it's, say, think think about Scarecrow's gas, fear toxin, except this kind of, actually I don't want to give too much away, but it's a lot of mental. Clock King does a lot of mental things to his victims. Um but yeah, so our three lead characters are really Clock King, Night Crow, Christian Todd, and Commissioner Gordon. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely we're also introduced to a character that has been in Christian's story since I made him in 2019, but I've never touched upon her character in the in the films or in anything actually really regarding Christian Todd whenever it comes to bringing him to the screen. And this is the character of Sky. Um, she played a big part, especially in Christian's childhood, which we never got to see in the first film, but we will definitely see it after the second film is released. You can expect this film. This film actually begins filming in 2 weeks, I think, maybe a week.
Oh, that's wow.
Yeah, it's coming up here shortly. And then filming should be done around late January, mid-February. And then you can expect the film, I'd say, in May. Yeah. So that's the Night Crow. Moving on to our next topic. The Five Nights at Freddy's Minecraft series is making a return. This is more of a collaboration, a main collaboration between me and Omen Productions. And it's not like The Lost Souls where it takes place. It's a very different approach, and I really like, this was mainly Omen's idea, and I really like the approach he's taken with it. It follows William Afton and Henry Emily in their founding years of Fazbear Entertainment. And we do, throughout this series, there's going to be a few seasons. So far, only one is greenlit, though, I think, as of now. We see every what do you call it whenever it's I don't know. I can't really think of the word, but like we get to see every pizzeria, I guess. We see games 1 through 7 in this series. And it's done in good ways. Like, it's done in unique ways where it's not just like, oh, hey, we're going to put this here because this. And we see a lot of character building between Henry and William, and I don't think you ever really see that. So, yeah, I can't really speak too much on this without Omen. So that's all I can really give you for now. Yeah. Other projects coming up. I will... me and Noah have actually just kind of started talking about this first one. The holding title for it right now, I don't know if this is actually the title, but the holding title is Glass. And it stars an anti-hero, which he suffers from split personality disorder. I said I kind of wanted to make it Moon Knight without Moon Knight. Like, I don't want the gods. I don't want it to be these different actual, like, characters living inside of one body. It's not like that. This is actually a man who suffers from split personality disorder, who has kind of decided just, he has motivation, which I guess is to bring justice to his city and whatnot, but he really has, like, no connection to what's up.
It's kind of just like, fuck it, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it is. This guy suffers from mental illness, clearly, and he kind of decides that he's just going to be a hero, right? And so his one split personality, his one alter is what you would say, actually, is more of like a fucked up, like, gritty, psychopathic, kind of murderer, right? Think of it as Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where they're kind of at odds, but at first they don't really know that the other exists, right? And so we definitely see a lot of inner conflict, and it really shows good acting, in my opinion, because you can see in certain scenes the switch, like the immediate switch in between characters, and you can see it just off acting. And I have wanted to do a project like this for a long time. There's going to be 6 episodes in the first season. I only have 1 season right now that I think I want to do. If eventually it spirals off into more, it will, but I currently only want 1 season of this, and I want it to be, concluded. You can add whatever you would like about this, and then we'll move on to your next thing.
Yeah, like he so, pretty much what he told me his idea. We wanted to do with it, and I was just like, being a little film man, I am a little film file. I am. I was just like, there's this movie, called A Scanner Darkly. It's basically, and I brought up the idea of the whole. It's so weird, but it's a man, an undercover cop, who he has another life where he's a drug dealer, and he ends up chasing himself, basically. Which I was just like, he told me the idea, was like, whoa. It was like,
Yeah,
what the fuck?
I really like that.
And, I was just thinking about it. I was like, you deal with a superhero. It's like, really be interesting, with the idea of a superhero basically being their own villain.
Yeah, that is definitely fucking crazy. Like, that is such a insane idea. Like, that's really good. I don't think I've ever seen that, ever.
So it's just like that. Well, the opportunity constructed itself. So get the ball and run with the kids. And I think it'll be I think it'll be different for people. Of course, people expect. I've seen the Spider-Mans and all that stuff, and Batman, but I think people are going to get to really enjoy how Cam writes characters, his own character, his own, free of a universe or anything, his own established, his own character.
Right, yeah. I really want to do that with this one. I don't want it to be tied to any hero, any universe, nothing. I mean, it's its own thing completely, and I'm really going to enjoy being able to write a character who is its complete original character without having ties to things I need to follow for continuity.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm being honest with you guys, even though I am a comic book person and I love no superheroes, I'll be honest with you. I told Cam this before. Me, the person who writes, if I had to write a superhero movie, I probably couldn't do it. Like I had to write a Marvel movie, I couldn't do it. And it's just because I just would not want to do what they asked me to do. I do stuff that are not at all what you
Mm-hmm.
want in a comic book movie. But in a film, it'd be good. But as a comic book movie, it might be. Mm. But don't worry, it doesn't mean Spider-Man is with you can be arrested. So just know you probably might. Yeah, I don't know. The muddy waters of the comics might be a little bit. The comics are gonna be that bad. I might change some stuff up. That's in the time.
All right. Well, let's hear about Showtime.
Yeah, so Showtime has actually been an idea for like a
Your
while. Man.
your audio sounds a little funny. Just fix your audio real fast.
Oh, my bad.
No,
But
you're
yeah,
good. There you go.
Showtime has been an idea for a while now. It's I think I don't know if I want to say maybe a year, maybe maybe shorter than that. But there has been I've thought about this idea and this project for so long about how to do it and what to do it with. And being the film person I am, I love films. I love all of it from its roots and up to its modernity. And this movie, obviously, with the premise, a struggling actor gets his role of a lifetime. I I want because there's these stories. You have the stories of actors really getting fucked up after projects. Like I just examples. Like in The Shining with Shelley Duvall, and
Oh yeah,
she
she was
she
fucked.
like the amount of trauma she was left with is crazy.
Yeah.
Or another example, someone like great actor, amazing actor, Daniel Day Lewis, but like I know that amount of method acting really took a toll on him, but he still kept himself in line. But even so, like there's worse examples, like with Jim Carrey on Man in the Moon. Like that was really, it was really bad. So there's just these examples in history of kind of like the idea of how far will someone push someone in the brink of their mentality, like the brink of their sanity, to get what they want.
Right.
And also not only that, but how far will you push? How far will they push themselves to be there? Because in a place like film, you really have no place. You can be replaced in an instant.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a battle of you know, even though this is destroying me, I have no other choice because if I don't do this, then I'm done.
Yeah.
So
It's a very interesting story, and I'm very intrigued for sure.
yeah, and I will say that this movie is definitely it's definitely more in a psychological type of drama, and honestly, I can see it in myself. It honestly can be I kind of see it being a psychological horror. It the aspect of the character you're really gonna get inside of his brain and just see how much at the end by the start of the movie and by the end of the movie how far he could change. But besides the dark stuff, besides the edgy stuff for a second, there's gonna be obvious. There's gonna be like so many cinematic no's to certain movies. I really can't even think about them, but there will be. It's also as much as it is a critique on film, it also is a celebration and appreciation of it.
Mhm.
But that's really is no. And honestly, I could say if I want to give you an idea of a movie to think of when thinking of this movie, I'd say probably probably a movie like Whiplash.
Ah, yeah.
Um, a movie like Whiplash. Um, a I'd probably say I know it's a good, really good movie. I saw the other day. Synecdoche, New York. It's very common. It's really not a very common good story, but it's about this dude. He basically makes his play of real, like a play that is based off of real life, like everyone in real life, and it happens in real time, and like the play is based off of his life. So all the stuff that happens to him throughout the movie, it's in his play, and really, it's a really, I mean, it's depressing.
Yeah,
Depressing.
this film is really um I whenever I think of this and everything that like this kind of entails, I'm really feeling like Magic. Like the film Magic. It came out in 1978. It involves a man of a ventriloquist, and he has this puppet, and he finds himself lined up for a TV show, and I mean this. He ends up believing that this ventriloquist dummy that he has created has like come to life, and it like his mind gets fucked over this show. Like just if you just look up Magic 1978, it is nuts. Like it's very like Joker-esque, featuring starring Joaquin Phoenix. It's very like that, and that's what this kind of reminds me of.
Yeah. Also, I will say, like I brought up before, being a psychological horror. I also think of some Stanley Kubrick movies as well. Um, they'll have that aspect of it. Stanley Kubrick. Probably some. And if I'm thinking of a specific Stanley Kubrick movie, I'd probably say, like I brought it up before. I was using an example, but also like The Shining. Not even of the whole like that aura aspect of it, but just saying like the psychological aspect of like Jack.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I won't lie. Like, I'm really excited for this.
yeah, the main thing about it for me really is just I don't want to be. I don't want this. I feel like when you make these kind of movies, there's this kind of like worry of being fucking like being too pretentious
Right? Yeah.
of make like because you know how because nowadays a lot of movies I say get made are very art house. Which I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with like artsy indie movies being made. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but
I'm
I
just
I
saying
understand the where it begins to look pretentious for sure.
like because a lot of it kind of feels like
Every indie
you're
movie
you're
is like,
fishing,
yeah.
you're fishing for an Oscar, you're fishing for an award, like you're
Right?
fishing for something.
Exactly. Exactly. Every indie film is the most beautiful masterpiece in the world, which just isn't true.
And it's the time every indie movie nowadays, it's like either it's something like Lady Bird or either it's a
Right? Yeah.
a depressing foreign movie. Which is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But then that's just really a main concern of mine is not making it feel like the whole bait of pretentiousness and just feel like I'm going for a gag of like, oh, this is deep.
Yeah.
This is
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly.
this is cinema.
Right.
But yeah, definitely, I definitely now, of course, this movie is probably this isn't the ball. This is my ideas in my head, but if the movie ever does get made, I hope it will get made. It'd probably be a very crazy fucking movie. I'd say that it's not gonna be a light movie.
Yeah. I think I definitely want to make this film. I think yeah, we're gonna definitely find a way for this to get made at some point. I don't know if it'll be soon. Well, I know it's not gonna be soon, but eventually this is gonna happen. I'm telling you that. Um, Moving on, the Grand Theft Auto 5 series is just it's a little something. It's just a little series. Small group of friends trying to work their way up in life get drawn into the wrong crowd when a mysterious dealer gives them an offer they can't refuse. Basically, this is going to kind of show the how different people are, how different people react to certain things, right? Like there's going to be one character who's like, we have to take this, right? We have to take this. There's going to be someone else who's like, nah, you can't trust this, you once you get involved in something like this, there's no going back and your life is kind of over. And then, there's always that one who's kind of like undecided, that neutral guy. Anyway, it's going to kind of tear this friend group apart. And there's not a whole lot I can say about this. Noah is involved in this one as well. He plays one of the characters, so does Omen. We all have our creative aspect on this. But yeah, there's not even a whole lot that's actually decided yet about it, but we know it's going to happen. Go ahead. Noah, if you want to say something. Oh, he's muted.
Yeah. It's like I'm thinking of what to say now. Fuck, oh gosh, earlier. Yeah. It's like he said, this is it's gonna tear the friend group apart, and honestly, in my head, I see it. Like, even though I was kind of shitting on them before, just a little about 5 minutes ago, I told him like earlier, I was like, you can really bring a mid-90s aspect to this.
Yeah.
And also not only that, in my little brain, my little phone brain, I also could see this kind of, if you do it correctly, having that, but that, because an aspect I really love about The Sopranos is, even though, it follows a story, the episodes are kind of in a box. It's kind of like, it's really just more focused on the mental of the character.
Yeah.
And kind of just getting carried. It's kind of really just character building. Of course, there's plot building and season stories that are built, but like in these episodes, you really just get to know the characters. And
Yeah.
just really who they
Yeah,
are. And
absolutely.
with a series like this, it could be very interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah. The next and the final thing that we have to talk about today. Also, I don't have too much. I mean, I've had this idea in my head for a long time, but I don't have too much to actually say about it. It's called Come Find Me, and it stars a teenage boy whose brother suddenly goes missing, and the main plot follows him going on somewhat of a journey to find him when he meets another boy who says he may know where he is. And so he obviously, this journey involves both of them now, and so it's more of an indie film. Hold on, I think I have it in here. Okay, so sorry, I was looking at my notes because I had some things written down about it. Yeah, it's nothing too crazy. Like it involves a lot of family trauma and things that kind of go on inside households that kind of affect younger kids. And I mean, the sibling that he's going after doesn't go missing. He's not taken. He runs away. And so obviously this teenage boy he has to find him. I mean, it's his brother. So yeah, we see a lot of, it's not going to be a long film. It's going to be about an hour and 15. It's nothing too crazy, but it's a little project that I've had an interest in, and I think it could go somewhere. So, yeah.
It's gonna be like I said, I'm excited for people to see. Yes, Cam with his own stories and his own fully just himself, fully everything himself. Not exactly in some type of like IP or like a Marvel or something like that. Kind of just his unique ideas, and his kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, with that being said, I mean, that's, I mean, all we really have to talk about. I mean, this has been a pretty solid podcast. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, we've talked about a lot. I think that we definitely touched upon a lot of things that I think you guys are going to enjoy a lot, and I'm really excited to announce a lot of it, and I know Noah is as well. Yeah, any closing remarks?
I think my closing remark is going to be just an amazing fantasy. Any other Spider-Man filmmaker, I say this with respect and with amount of appreciation and admiration to you, but suck a dick. This is gonna be better than whatever you got. I say, admiration and respect, but suck a dick. This will be better than whatever. And then other stuff. Otherwise, I say even though I'm sure there's things that people might be a little bit skeptical on, I think there's no reason to be. I think with you having someone like Cam, as he is, Cam, it gets on my nerves sometimes, but it's good. He can be a little bit of a perfectionist too, but it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good, and it works because he really gets the best out of his ideas that way. Now, I'm not gonna say he's like a fucking kind of person to do 20 takes or do 100 takes until it's one right. But he's not a man. He's not the kind to rush a product. He lets it come as it should, and I think that's what makes the stuff he has good, because he doesn't try to force something out of it. He just lets it kind of disperse, let it express in itself.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, man. Definitely excited to work on all these projects with you for sure. It's gonna be one hell of a ride for sure. Thank you everyone who watched the whole way through. Even if you didn't, thanks for stopping by. I think we'll do more podcasts like this in the future. Not necessarily, obviously this was a topic for one specific episode, I think. I'm going to bring back the podcast though and just have, some topics, some interesting topics that we can talk about. And yeah.
Who knows? Might even do a little table read. No, I'm just playing.
Say that again?
I said, who knows? We might just do a little bit of a table read.
Table read. Yeah, you know what, man? I mean, shit. We'll see, man. We will see. But on that note, I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.